training consistently, you're eating well, probably better than most people that you know, you're hitting your protein target, you're in a calorie deficit, you're doing everything that the internet is telling you, yet you're still not dropping body fat. I see this every single week with new clients who come to me after they've tried everything and they're feeling burnt out. And sometimes it's not about just eating less and moving more. Sometimes it's about one of these 3 reasons that most coaches will never go into detail with. And in today's video, I'm breaking down all 3. And most importantly, what to do about each of them. Now, the reason I wanted to make this video is because fat loss advice has become so surface level. It's eat less, move more, track your calories. Now, of course, does this work? Absolutely. However, like I said, this is at surface level and it doesn't paint the entire picture. And if you're in a position right now where you're doing all 3 and you're feeling like you're doing absolutely everything right, then it's probably going to be one of these 3 reasons. So let's dive into the first one. Reason 1, your internal environment is working against you. Now, I don't just mean your diet environment, and I don't just mean your training environment. No, I mean what's going on inside of the body. And this is something that most coaches will never be able to speak about, because you can genuinely be hitting your protein goal, training consistently, theoretically in a calorie deficit via calculations, and still not drop body fat. Because if your body is chronically in a stress state and cortisol is chronically elevated, whether that's from work stress, life pressure, overtraining, poor sleep, your body can simply hold on to stored fat as a stress response, as a survival response. And therefore, you'll be in a position where you don't drop body fat. It will physically override the calorie max. See, I had a client, Tom, who came to me in a great position. He was training consistently, he was hitting macros every single day. And on paper, everything looked perfect. However, the scale still wasn't moving. So what did we do? We had a look at his data. We had a look at his resting heart rate. We had a look at his HRV. And we'd seen that his HRV had plummeted, his resting heart rate had elevated, and we could see that his body was under stress. And it made sense because it was a very high stress period at work. So what did we do to try and fix that? Well, we certainly didn't add more training. We certainly didn't remove more food and put him into a further deficit. We certainly didn't do more cardio. No, we took a step back. So we fixed the environment first. And guess what? Within 2 weeks, we saw that body fat start shifting again. So treat your nervous system like a fat loss variable, like you would a calorie deficit. And that's something that most coaches can never address. So what do you actually do about it then? Well, the first thing is we need to sleep. See, if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep every single night, then that is going to be the first place that you start. That is going to be your number 1 fat loss tool to actually allow the body to recover, to actually allow the body to grow from the work that you do in the gym. And therefore, you're actually going to see the results that you want to off the back of it. The second thing we need to do is we need to protect our recovery, not work against it. See, you'll want to track your readiness, your resting heart rate, your HRV every single day if you can. And you can use a Whoop, you can use a Garmin, you can use an Apple Watch. Anything that is going to allow you to track that data. See, if you're in a position where you start to see it trending downwards, right? You can see that things aren't moving in the direction that you want to, you can step in and you can intervene that. You can manage that session. You might actually take a rest day, right? To actually allow the body to recover and be in a position where it can continue to push on. See, if you push through that, that's where the issues start to come up. Now, truthfully, if you're in a little bit of a quote unquote recovery hole, you actually might need to take some time away from training and go through a deload. This will allow the body to reset. This will allow the body to recover, remove some stress from the body, remove some inflammation, shift some of this systemic fatigue, and therefore you can get yourself back into a position where you bounce back. How I want you to think about this is like a bow and arrow, right? You pull back to push forwards. But most people get deloads completely wrong. They'll take them for granted. You actually need to warrant a deload under large amounts of training stress, overtraining, etc., before just taking a couple of days off because your body's a little bit tired. So make sure that the data is lining up. And last but not least, we do have to honestly look at what is causing us a lot of stress in our life. See, if work stress is very, very high, if there's a lot of pressure coming in from external factors, life, or if we're just chronically overtraining. We have to honestly look and recognize and do something about that, because no calorie deficit is going to override that in the slightest. And you won't see the results that you're after unless that thing is fixed. Reason number 2, you did way too much, way too soon. See, this is one of the most common mistakes that I see guys make. They get motivated, they get G'd up, they're ready to drop body fat. So what do? Daily cardio, train 6 days per week, slash their calories in half. They've gone from 0 to 100. They've ran or tried to run before they can walk. And where does that get them? Well, it works for 2 weeks and then the wheels fall off. And here's exactly what happens. You're in an aggressive deficit, so your energy tanks. You're then training 6 days per week on top of that, so it tanks it even further. You're then trying to do daily cardio, which is just adding more stress onto an already stressed state. So what happens? Well, your body doesn't lean out, it starts fighting against you, right? Because it just has to quite simply survive. So your progress stalls, and then you get frustrated, and then you stop training, and then you go on a binge over the weekend to try and get all of this energy back because your cravings are through the roof and you're so depleted, and then you're back to square one. Probably sounds quite familiar, right? And then you try again in 3 months' time after another failed attempt. See, the people that get the best results, they don't go for the aggressive results, they go for the sustainable ones. A 500 calorie deficit that can be sustained across a 16-week period is going to be a far better approach than a 1,000 calorie deficit that can last for 2 or 3 weeks. So here's the fix, and here's exactly how we look to set up a fat loss phase. And we'll start with our diet first. A calorie deficit. Anywhere between 400 to 500 calories is going to be more than enough. Enough to produce results, not too much that you fall off again within 2 weeks. You'll also keep expenditure minimal to start. 10,000 steps per day, 2 to 3 cardio sessions per week that are likely just going to start at zone 2 work, maybe half an hour each. And again, enough to produce results, but not enough to send you into a spiral. That's it. And then from a weight training standpoint, 3 to 5 training sessions per week, whatever you can genuinely and realistically commit to, alongside a high protein diet with 1 gram worth of protein per pound of body weight. Simple. Why? Well, you know how tools left in the toolbox for when progress inevitably stalls, right? When you get to week 6 or week 8 and that body weight is stalled out for 1 or 2 weeks, you can now add in an additional cardio session. You can now drop your calories by another 200 and you'll be able to continue to see that progress, and it won't feel unsustainable in comparison to you being in a 1,000 calorie deficit, 5 sessions worth of cardio already. Where do you go? See, if you've already used all of your tools at the start, you've got nowhere to go. And the only place that you can end up is basically suffering. So start slower, last longer, and get far further with your results. Reason number 3, the all or nothing trap. See, this one's responsible for more failed fat loss phases than any wrong calorie target or any training program ever will be. Here's what that looks like in practice. Monday through till Friday, you're perfect. You're nailing your training, nailing your cardio. You've hit all of your macro targets. You're in a calorie deficit and you're dropping body fat. You're seeing that scale drop. Then the weekend rolls around. Beers with the mates. A meal out is calling. A night out is calling. So you get tempted. You go and do it. But then you write off the entire weekend. And then you start again on Monday. Sound familiar? See, I had a client, Alex. Classic all or nothing trap, unfortunately, where everything would be spotless through the week. Nailing his training, nailing his nutrition, nailing his cardio. He'd be seeing progress throughout the week. However, the weekend would roll around, an event would come up, and then he'd be back to square one every single Monday. And he went round and round in circles for months and years. So what do we have to change? Well, I actually increased his calories. I actually introduced some flexibility throughout the week and throughout the weekend to make it work for him and his social life. And here's what's happened since. He's dropped 4 kilograms in 6 weeks, eating more food, training better, with more energy, and now believes that this is all part of his lifestyle, which of course it is. And of course, there's plenty more to come. This is just the start. But the main aim to start with was to get him consistent. 80 to 90% every single week beats 100% Monday through till Friday, 0% over the weekend, and then coming in every single week at like 40, 50% with an entire week written off. He does have more body fat to come off, But this was just the start. The whole point here was just to get him consistent and get him into a system that actually worked for his body, not against it. See, that's the majority of this game. You just need to stick into it long enough and consistently enough to actually see the results. Because 6 months at 80% is always going to be 100% for 2 weeks. So how do you break the all or nothing cycle? Well, the first thing is you have to stop trying to be perfect. Like I literally just said a second ago, consistency is the aim of the game. If you don't stop, you're always just going to get the results in the end. And 80% worth of consistency across 3 months, 6 months, 12 months is always going to be trying to be 100% for 2 weeks and then falling flat on your ass. Secondly, you have to build in some flexibility from the start. If you know that you like to be social, then putting higher calories on a Friday and a Saturday is always going to work better for you. It then does mean that you'd have to have lower calories on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and get your weekly average correct to still be in a deficit. But if you can do that, you're still going to drop body fat and of course see the results that you're after. And the third one is the mindset. This up here. We've got to reframe what a bad day actually looks like. One off-plan meal does not mean that you need to have an entire day off plan. One bad day does not mean that it needs to turn into a week. One bad week does not mean it needs to turn into a month. The sooner that you can draw a line in the sand and get things moving back in the right direction again, the sooner that you're going to see long-term results. If you missed your training session on Monday, train Tuesday and make up for it in the rest of the week. If you had one bad meal, get back to it the next meal. The focus is keeping the plan continuing, not stop starting 100 times over across a year and then wondering why you're literally spinning your wheels and seeing no progress. Remember that consistency is the aim of the game. So that's it. 3 reasons and 3 fixes. The first one, your environment, your HRV, your sleep, your stress, and exactly what we need to do to fix the environments so the inputs can actually land. Number 2, doing too much too soon, starting slower, actually giving yourself some tools in the toolbox so that you can utilize them further down in the fat loss phase. And last but not least, the all or nothing trap. We know that consistency beats perfection every single time. And the likelihood is, if you're stuck, it's probably going to be one of these 3 reasons. Not your metabolism, not your genetics, not anything else that it possibly could be. One of these 3. Now, if you found this video useful, drop it a like, drop a comment on what your biggest blocker is. I read every single one. If there's any other content that you would like to see, drop a comment as well. And of course, I will make that in the future. And make sure you subscribe. We've got videos coming out every single Sunday to help you guys drop body fat, build lean physiques, and finally see the results you're after.